Alright guys, back in 1894, Winchester introduced the Model 94, one of the most famous rifles of all time and my favorite. It was the first rifle that was ever chambered to use smokeless powder. Now the first year it came out, it didn't use smokeless powder. It had two cartridges that were offered with it, the 3855 and the 3240. Next year in 1895, the 3030 was introduced and history was made. But we're not here to talk about the Model 94, which is, once I said, my favorite. We're here to talk about another Winchester that was introduced the year after. See, what happened with the 94, it was so popular, but it wasn't really designed to shoot big game. So Winchester needed to introduce something that was meant for more of the big game animals, like in North America it would be for grizzly, for moose, for elk. That's where the rifle that we're going to look at today was introduced. One of the great rifles with lots of history. So, let's get a little bit of a history lesson on this rifle. Alright, the gun we're going to talk about today is the Model 1895 Winchester. It's a rare gun. It's not something you see people toting around in the woods. It's nothing you're going to see on Grandpa's gun shelf. It's fairly rare. Alright, the reason they designed this rifle was for big game. The reasoning is they felt that the Model 94, as well received as it was, the 3030 was not designed to shoot big game. It was designed for medium game, white-tailed deer, mule deer, black bear, hogs, things like that. So they needed a gun that was going to be able to penetrate through the thick hide of big game, such as moose, elk, grizzly bear, lions, rhinos, things like that. So they came up with this rifle. Now it's very similar to the Model 94 in looks, except for it does not have a tubular magazine. It's got a box magazine. That way it can run Spitzer type bullets. It also has a much thicker and heavier breech for those very high pressures at some of these shells that this shoots. Alright, so the 1895, it was chambered in a number of different rounds, a lot of which we don't see anymore, but I'll name off a few that you may recognize. So, things like the 30 US or the 30 Army. You guys know it as the 3040 Krag. The 30M 1906, also known as the 30-06. Everybody knows that one, right? The 303 British. That speaks for itself. And Winchester also had some cartridges made for this gun of their own, such as the 35 WCF, and the most famous, and probably the one that we're going to learn about today, the 405 WCF. Alright, so as you've noticed, a lot of these rounds that I've just mentioned were military rounds. And that's because this was a gun that was actually pushed to be a military weapon. The Russians received 300,000 of these rifles during World War I in 3040 Krag. And in the Spanish-American War, a lot of our troops used them. In the musket configuration, meaning that they had the wood grip came all the way up to the end of the barrel. They had bayonet lugs and that were designed for hand-to-hand combat. Alright, so here's where we tie in the Model 95 into Teddy Roosevelt's later life. So on March 23rd, 1909, Teddy Roosevelt, a mere 3 weeks after his presidency ended, him and his son Kermit embarked onto his great African adventure. Leading up to his great African adventure, then, at this time, still President Theodore Roosevelt contacted Winchester and had 4 rifles fitted for him and Kermit. They had to be exact, right down to the sights and the stocks. And there was a lot of back and forth between Winchester and Roosevelt on how they were to be built and when they would be delivered. And Winchester did deliver. On that trip, he had 4 1895s go with him. 2 in 405 and 2 in 3040 Krag. Needless to say, these rifles worked flawlessly, and they did quite well. Now, this safari wasn't just a trophy hunting trip for him. This was actually a scientific expedition for him and Kermit to collect specimens for the Smithsonian Institute. They collected thousands of different animals, everything from fish all the way up to big game. He had brought taxidermists with him and scientists so they could catalog these animals. He said he wanted the United States to have the greatest display of African animals in the world. So this historic rifle is rarely seen in the deer woods, as I said before. But today, I have the pleasure of having one here with me in 405, just like Teddy had in Africa. And we're going to try it out on a few targets here. So, here comes the fun part. All right, I'm here with Chris. As we all know, we've seen Chris on my videos before, and he just purchased a brand new Model 95, which Winchester in the past bunch of years has reintroduced, but they're making them only in limited runs. Chris had to wait a whole year to get this rifle. Were you pretty excited when you finally got it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this thing is really nice. It is probably one of the nicer rifles. And I've been kind of critical of the newer Winchesters not being made in America, but I have to say that this thing, the craftsmanship on this rifle is beautiful. Now I want to show you, I'm going to show you the difference here. I've got it, as soon as I get my glasses in my pocket here, I've got it sitting next to Betsy, my Model 94, so you can kind of see the size difference. So the Model 95 weighs 8 some odd pounds, whereas the Model 94 is 6 3/4, I believe. So here we go, let's look at them. So here's the 1895, of course, and there's the 1894. You can see the size differences quite a bit. I do believe that the Model 95 has a 24-inch barrel on it, where the Model 94 I have here has a 20. The checkering on this gun is just unbelievably beautiful. It grips your hand nice, and it's just really well laid out. And you'll see there's the box magazine we spoke of before. More beautiful checkering up here on this gun. And you can see that's got a big barrel on it. It's a very large bullet anyways. And of course you get the Model 94 there with the tube magazine. We've all seen this gun a number of times. The only thing Chris says he wished he'd gotten was the fancier buttstock, the Crescent buttstock, but I think that that's pretty good. Chris, I'm going to have you pick this gun up. Kind of run us through how this thing works, because it's different. The Model 94 is pretty Spartan on how it works. The lever goes forward, the lever goes back. You load it through the side gate. Show us how this one actually works.
So the first thing you'll notice is it has a tang safety versus the half-cock safety. And right now the safety's on. And there's a mechanism down in there that the block will pop up and prevent the hammer from completely falling forward and striking the firing pin. And obviously with the safety off, it, just shoots regularly.
It goes boom.
Yeah. It comes with the
semi-buckhorn sights.
Yep.
That's a brass end? Yep, a brass sight on the front.
Another cool feature of this is this lever down here. This will not pop open unless if you apply pressure down on this lever.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a little latch right there, so that will open it up.
You can see that whole mechanism is completely different than a Model 94 or even a Marlin 336. It's the whole thing drops down, the whole trigger drops down through. That's cool.
Right there you got the box magazine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little tricky to load. What I do is I put the bullet semi in the chamber, then push back and slide it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really nice gun. I've already shot it 2-3 times, and I've shot a lot of different lever guns, and it's one of my favorites by far.
Yep.
I'm pretty excited to get it. Waited a little over a year for it, and costed, pretty penny, but
yeah,
it's an investment.
The MSRP is like what, $12.95? $14.95?
Yeah, right around $14.95.
Yeah,
I believe.
We won't disclose how much you paid for it, but it's not a cheap gun, but it's also basically what you're buying with this, because they make such a limited run. You're basically buying a handmade gun. I mean, this is like the Ferrari to me of the Winchester line. It's really just gorgeous, and it's so historic because Teddy Roosevelt shot lions with this gun. Not this gun, That gun would be worth millions of dollars, I guess. But no, this is pretty interesting. So the one thing, like you said, the one thing is you get the shotgun stock on the back instead of the crescent. That'd be the only thing you'd change with it?
Yeah, I don't believe they give you the option of switching it.
Yeah.
Or at least I never got given the option, but yeah, I definitely prefer a little, a little curve in it, but
yeah,
it's still really nice. Shoots
that
good.
said, we're going to try to get to the fun part and shoot a few targets with this 405. Let's actually, why don't you pull out one of those 405 shells? We'll take a look at the 405. So Hornady. Now this is the other problem with this caliber, is these getting ammo. So Hornady is pretty much one of the only ones that's really making it, other than Buffalo Bore and a few other hand load guys. These are really hard to find any place. So there's the 405. It's a straight wall cartridge with a 300 grain bullet. These are Hornady. As you can see here, the custom shop makes them, the interlock bullets. So they're pretty potent. It's said that they have more recoil than a 30-06, and a little tiny bit more than a 45-70. So they are a potent round. They're nothing that you want to shoot 1,000 rounds in a day. This is a serious gun with some serious kick. So Chris is going to show us how it shoots, and we got a few targets lined up down there, and let's get to it. There we go. All right, show us how we'll load it.
So loading this can be a little tricky because you don't have a whole lot of room. But what I do is I put the bullet down in there. You can see, you push and slide it back.
I got you.
We adjusted the sights a little, so.
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying we adjusted the sights.
Oh. Yeah.
Round in the chamber. Oh, let's see.
Oh, you're right there.
It's getting close.
Ah!
I think this is my last shot.
Now you got it. So what we had to do was the ramp site was all the way up here for probably like 150 yards, 200 yards. So we moved it down to the lowest setting to start with, 50 yards, and that seemed to do the trick. And we hit a few, so just basically a shakedown for this new gun. So
yeah, put another 4 rounds in it. We're gonna see if we can take out the 2 bottles downrange.
2 enemies.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Close. Alright, here we go.
Went high.
Try aiming at the bottom of it.
Whoa! All right, so that's our look at the 1895 Winchester. We've killed some enemy bottles down there with it. It's pretty impressive. It does have some recoil. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, think long and hard before you get a 405. It's hard to find ammo. It's expensive to buy it. And it recoils like a rented mule. So I think that if I was going to get one, I'd definitely get it in 30-06. Chris, if you had to do it again, would you go with the 405 again?
I think I would. It's just,
Yeah.
I like the history of the round, and pretty neat to have.
So with Chris, it's more of a nostalgic thing than it is anything else. With me, I'd love to carry that gun in the deer woods and see how it would do, but I definitely want a 30-06. Just because I'm a cheap Yankee and I don't like spending a lot of money. So that said, that's our video. Thanks for watching. Click like and subscribe as always, and we'll get another one. We can't do any shed hunting right now. We've got about 1,800 feet of snow, and it's all hard and icy and crusty on the top. The deer are stuck up in the woods. They ain't going anywhere. So we're going to play around with guns and other silly stuff. Once the snow goes, we'll get back to the shed hunting. So thanks for watching.